Today, we're going to talk about a situation that is becoming, well, just incredibly common. It's this story of the high achieving student who looks perfect on paper, They have it all together. But on the inside, they're completely falling apart. It's a deep dive into the immense and often totally invisible pressure our students are under and how that pressure can look like something else entirely. And let's just start right here with this really powerful quote from the student at the heart of this. It hits you, right? This isn't about a lack of desire or not being motivated. It's a feeling of being completely paralyzed, just frozen by the sheer weight of it all. So, to really get our heads around that frozen feeling, we've got to look at the world this student is trying to navigate. I mean, what does a typical week even look like for them? Okay, just look at this schedule. This isn't just a list of impressive things to put on a college application. This is a map of a life that is packed to the absolute brim. We're talking 6 AP courses, not one but multiple internships, tutoring other kids, National Honor Society, volunteering, and on top of all of that, dealing with a super competitive school and, just trying to have a social life. And that right there, that brings us back to the human cost. Every single item on that last list is a huge demand on time, on energy, on mental space. So when you pile it all together, it all boils down to one single powerful feeling: being completely and totally overwhelmed. So what happens when a bright, motivated kid is under this kind of relentless strain day in and day out? How does that stress actually start to show up in their behavior? Well, the science can be really confusing, and honestly, they often get misread. On the surface, what you see looks like classic procrastination. You see someone who has trouble focusing, who has a short temper, who's just exhausted all the time. But here's the thing. These aren't signs of laziness or a bad attitude. They are distress signals. They're cries for help from a system that is just completely overloaded. That freezing isn't a choice. It's a symptom of total burnout. And to cope with that constant exhaustion, the student was relying on 1 to 2 caffeinated energy drinks every single day. And we're not just talking about to cram for an exam. This was just to get through a normal school day and even to have enough energy to go to social events on the weekends. And this right here, this is the core of the paradox. The behaviors we see on the surface, the procrastination, the fatigue, that's not the real problem. The procrastination isn't laziness, it's avoidance, driven by crippling anxiety. The inattention isn't just a wandering mind. It's a mind that's literally frozen by the pressure to be perfect. This isn't a character flaw. It's what happens when your coping resources are pushed to their absolute limit and beyond. Now, making that distinction is absolutely critical because it led everyone, the student, the family, to ask a really important question that at first pointed them in completely the wrong direction. I mean, think about it. You see trouble with focus, with organization, with just starting tasks. The first thought for pretty much everyone was, hey, maybe this is ADHD. It's a totally logical assumption to make. But was it the right one? The answer, it turns out, was a clearer no. A much deeper look revealed that the root cause wasn't a neurodevelopmental condition like ADHD. It was the crushing weight of anxiety, perfectionism, and the incredibly intense stress of the student's whole situation. This table really breaks down why it's so easy to get this wrong. Take inattention. With classic ADHD, you've got a lot of distractibility. But for this student, the inattention came from a mind that was frozen by worry about whether the work would be good enough. Or executive dysfunction. It wasn't some chronic wiring issue. It was an avoidance tactic because the pressure to be perfect was just way too intense. The root cause is different, and that means the solution has to be different too. So once the true cause was finally identified, the path forward became so much clearer. The focus shifted away from trying to fix the student and toward changing the system around them. And the way forward wasn't about trying harder or finding some new productivity hack. No way. It was about fundamentally changing the whole approach. First, hitting the reset button on expectations from the student themselves, from parents, from the school. Second, building real healthy coping skills. Third, and this is so important, actually scheduling protected time for rest. And finally, getting the whole family on the same page. Let's just pause on this idea of protected time for a second, because it's huge. This isn't just saying, oh, you should take a break. This is about scheduling rest with the same seriousness you'd schedule an AP class. It's time that is guaranteed, it's non-negotiable, and it's free from that nagging guilt that you should be doing something productive. In our culture of constant achievement, that's a pretty radical idea.
So, what was the student's ultimate goal in all this? It's so beautifully simple and yet incredibly profound. To get her sense of agency back, to be able to choose what to do and when to do it without being controlled by anxiety or that feeling of being paralyzed. It's about reclaiming her own life.
And that leaves us with a much bigger question, doesn't it? Because this isn't just about one person's story. It's about a culture that relentlessly rewards achievement, often at the direct cost of well being. And it forces us all to ask, how do we start building a world where rest isn't seen as a luxury, but as an absolutely essential part of a successful and a happy life?